So I got a really, really dope show for you today. I'm live. This is live. I'm live right now. You saw me putting the comments up on the screen. But I have a conversation that is pre-recorded with my man, Morgan Turner, bass player. Phenomenal bass player. Played for John P. Key. He's played for Javante Patton. I mean, Morgan is ran the gamut of the list of your favorite bass players. I mean, from Isaiah Thomas all the way back to God Said It Would Be With Me. If y'all remember that song, that was Morgan on bass. Really, really dope stuff. Really, really dope bass player. He's touched more records than I can name, from Jonathan Nelson, Jason Nelson. Man, this guy is the guy. He's quickly like really a young goat, and he's killing the game. So I have a pre-recorded conversation with him that I want to play for you today, that we tapped in with about a week or so ago. We tapped in because he's got an extremely busy schedule. So we couldn't do it live. So we said, okay, I'll pre-record and then we'll stream this live. Now, full disclosure, this part that I'm about to share with you is an exclusive clip from The Art of Mixing Gospel by John Blass. All right. So if you guys haven't been paying attention, we have been promoting a new masterclass by John Blass. That is really, really dope. 6 hours of content on mixing from one of the top engineers, probably the second top tier of the top two. John Blass is number 2, with John Yash being the GOAT of all mixing engineers in gospel. And so we have a 6-hour masterclass. And so a part of that 6 hours is an hour and 30-minute segment that we did with Morgan Turner, because he produced the record that is being mixed. All right. He produced the record that's been mixed in the class. And so Morgan got a chance to do that. So we got a chance to sit with him. And so what I'm about to share with you is a clip from that class. But before I share that with you, I got something I want to show you guys really, really quick. Pay attention to this.
Hey, this is John Blass. Alongside my Gospel Producers mixing class, we're opening up for 25 people the ability to get personalized feedback on one of your mixes. You'll submit your mix, I will listen to it in my own space, in my studio, provide feedback directly to you. In addition, if you purchase at this level, you'll be invited to participate in the exclusive Ask Me Anything virtual session with me, where the whole group will get to sit and talk about mixing. You can ask questions. I will talk to all of you directly and spend time discussing how mixing works and the problems we run into and how to do this better. Click the link in my bio or scan the QR code to gain access to this class.
All right, real quick ad there. So if you want to screenshot this QR code to get in there. So he said 25, but we actually only have like, I think 10 slots left to book. And I am closing off this registration for this specific thing that I just played. We're closing off that registration for that at on Monday. That is going to be the absolute last time. And we're closing the door on being able to get this exclusive time with John Blass. All right, so make sure you scan that QR code to get in on that. If you're on a phone, screenshot this for later. Just screenshot it and then jump on your phone afterwards, and you can actually tap it in your camera roll. It'll take you to the website. So QR code is going away in 3, 2, 1. All right, she's gone. All right, so I don't want you guys to check that out, but what's not gonna cost you nothing, I'm about to stream this very dope part of the conversation that I had with Morgan Turner. Without further ado, we're gonna dig into it. So I hope you guys enjoy this conversation. Make sure you check out Blass's class, because I'm only gonna stream a piece of this, and then we're gonna cut it off at a point where it probably is gonna get really, really good. So, all right, here, without further ado, here's my conversation that I had with bass player Morgan Turner. All right, let's get into it. What up, guys? You know who it is. It's your boy, Juan Miguel, and I am back again here today with my man, 100 gram Morgan Bassman Turner. This guy is producer extraordinaire, engineer extraordinaire, recording guy extraordinaire, bass player, musician, This dude probably make
You really laying
brownies.
it on, bro.
This dude probably make dope brownies too. I would not even be surprised if I came over to his crib and he was like, "Yo, man, go ahead, man, grab you a couple brownies, man. Come on down to the studio and let's lock it in." But no, man, I appreciate you taking out this opportunity.
Man,
For
thank
those,
you for having me, man.
man,
I'm
absolutely,
honored.
yes,
You
sir, yes, sir.
doing you're like a household name when it comes to our community. So I've
Oh
been
man, not a
admiring what you've
household
been
name.
doing. For no, seriously, man.
Don't put me up
You
there with like Wesson and Ajax and
yeah,
the
yeah,
vacuum
yeah.
cleaners and all of that
Facts,
stuff.
man. Look, man, you made what we do on a regular basis obtainable to the
Wow.
everyday, can't go on the road, but I want to have this professional sound. You
Wow.
made it tangible. And, to break that barrier, is amazing. I respect that so much because honestly,
sir.
it makes everything we do make sense when we come back home to actually bring
Wow.
everybody up to try to figure out like, man, well, how do I do X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
It's preparation. You giving people a way to prepare without them necessarily having to be on the road to get prepared.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I appreciate that, man. I'm humbled by that. It's always that weird kind of space, when you have someone, because you don't think about the things that you're doing when you're doing them. You know what I mean? You're just doing them.
Right.
For you, it's Tuesday. It's Wednesday. And for other people, they're like, "Man, you changing the game," and I'm like, I don't know. I'm making up rules as I go, I guess.
Right.
So I guess at that level, I am changing something. I don't know, but it's good to hear that and have that. That encourages me to keep it pushing and knowing that I am making.
Please don't stop. Keep breaking barriers, man. We need it. We need it, man, for sure.
Man, well, we thank you for, like I said, coming in and sitting with us in this particular session. We are doing John Blass's mixing class.
That's my guy.
So this is a special session just for the people that have enrolled in the class. And we thought it would be really, really cool and really, really amazing to actually show the production side of the mix. And I think this is relevant and important because one, you rarely ever get to see this side, of either side, the mixing or the production. Like people don't typically show this aspect of the music. We just hear it when it comes out, and we do all of the accolades and all of the stuff like that, the credits, who did this, who played what. But I think it's something to be said about seeing the breakdown of how the elements come together, and then you as a mixing engineer or someone who's learned to mix, because great mixes come from great recordings. John Yash told me that years ago.
Yes.
If it doesn't matter how good the mixing engineer is, how good the tools that they have is,
come on, Jay,
it is a terrible recording, it's not gonna sound good. I mean, it's that's just what it is. Like you can't polish a turd. That's the saying, right? So you're only as good as the recording. So I think it's befitting that we highlight the recording in this section of the class because one, Morgan and his team and his crew did a phenomenal job putting this song together, and there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that went into this record, only to be entrusted to Blast to do the mix.
Right.
And so all of this part ties into the mixing aspect of it.
Yes, sir.
So, man, Morgan, so if you could tell us first just a little bit about the project, how you connected with Javante, how this whole thing came together and pulled.
Man, funny enough, I had been working with Javante for years before we had even met in person.
Really?
With this day and age of, the recording world where somebody can reach out to you on IG and be like, "Hey, man, I want you to play on a song." It's like, okay, cool, no problem. I ain't got to leave the crib to play on a song. So I've been playing on a lot of Javante's early music for years and didn't know it was him. I've been playing bass. I'm at least say for at least the last 3 to 5 years on stuff that he's done before we had ever even gotten into a space to be in the same room.
That's crazy.
So when he called me for this record, I said, okay, cool, man, I would love to, no problem. And then when he started telling me the band members, some I knew, some I didn't know. And I think what actually made me more excited was about bringing Gabe Bennett into the picture on drums. So, because, in the recording world, when you come to doing a live record, bass and drums matter. They carry a lot of the weight of everything. So for me, if somebody calls me doing a live recording, my first question always is, who's the drummer? Yep. Because if everything else goes wrong, but the drums is right, a lot of that stuff can be fixed.
We can fix everything else.
We can fix everything else.
Records.
Right. But if you're doing a live record, and this is just a gold nugget for all y'all trying to get into it, make sure your drummer is A1. Because one thing you do not want to do is try to go back and recreate a live drum room.
No.
It's almost not to impossible. From energy to tonal placements to, in the average recording world, live recording world, I'll say working with Danny Duncan a lot.
Oh man,
drum tones normally take anywhere from an hour to 2 hours alone.
Yeah. No,
before anybody else gets in there. So
you're talking about trying to do a 10-song record, like trying to re-record that, bro. Like we there for weeks.
Yeah, we're there for weeks. So just make sure your drummer's A1. So when Javante told me it was Gabe on drums, I was like, okay, this is gonna be a walk in the park. Then he told me Jay Ant was a part of the band. I'm like, okay, great. And a few other new guys that I didn't know. I'm like, but at least the core foundation. The core foundation was great. Okay, cool. I know Jay Ant playing mains. We're gonna be good. Me on bass, Gabe on drums, we're going to be fine.
So I want you to speak to that for a little bit, because that's kind of non-conventional. Like most of the time, I mean, now we've seen most of the time the keys player, most of the time the person who, that's typically like the producer. And I know Jay Ann, he's a great, phenomenal producer as well. And so rarely ever do you see someone like the bass player being the MD and the producer for the record. You know what I mean? And also versus we've seen C-Rod, of course, sitting in the producer seat
absolutely.
a billion times as a drummer. He's definitely pioneered that, but that's still non-normative. You don't see the drummer being the producer on the record. You don't typically see the bass player being the MD/producer on the record. So how did that become about? How did you get in that seat?
Honestly, the biggest thing for me it's kind of a two-part story. So really growing up watching all of the award shows, it was always this name that you just heard. His name is Ricky Minor. Okay. Ricky Minor, one of the greatest musical directors of all time. I heard his name, but until I actually saw it on TV, and I'm like, whoa, he's the bass player. And he's running the whole show. But I mean,
Blackstone too. Yeah, he's definitely a go.
I'm getting to that. So I didn't get hip to Blackstone's position as a music director until he really started getting into the latter years of his career where he is now. But then once I started studying BBE and like how he was moving as a music director, being able to lock in all these accounts and have these relationships. And then it's almost like being the MD as a bass player really kind of makes the most sense.
Yeah.
Because we are actually one of the only instruments that really control the temperament of everybody's position.
Foundation. Yeah.
From foundation to tempo to chord quality to feel to all of that. We're the actual only ability band member that if you take away from the music, it's a significant loss.
That makes sense.
You can actually do a whole song without drums, and the bass player can still carry the percussiveness of the song.
That's good.
You can take away keys from a song, and if you have bass, guitar, and drums, you still have a full production.
That's true.
But take away the actual bass out of a song, you're missing something. And a lot of people can't you're missing a whole lot. A lot of people can't explain it. So really, and it even goes past the musician portion. From a vocal perspective, a lot of vocalists really feed off of the vibe of what the bass is doing. Because a lot of the times the bass sets the vibe.
Yeah.
And I've seen Blackstone just be one of those vibey bass players. Ricky Minor is the sheet music TV is tight, clean, all that stuff. So really, my experience of moving into the MDC came from my mentor, Dana Saray.
Yeah.
We were working on Jason Nelson's Shifting the Atmosphere record. And at that point, I was just a bass player. I've been working with Jason for about, 4 or 5 years at that point. And, we were working on Shifting the Atmosphere. I was coming to the rehearsals And, you know, the MD had some other things going on that was current at the time.
Yeah.
And he wasn't able to make the rehearsals. So I was at all the rehearsals. We been through at least 80% of the record. So we're sitting down at lunch one day, and Dana asked, so Jason, who's your MD?
Wow.
And I'm sitting there minding my business, eating my food. Jason was like, well, so-and-so is, but I don't know. What am I supposed to do? Well, Dana was like, well, okay, Morgan's your new MD.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there like, wait a minute, what makes me MD quality?
Yeah.
Well, it's because at that point, and I look back years now and say it was because I was a student of the music. I was learning the heart of the producer and the artist, and I was able to articulate what the producer needed to the rest of the band because I was there.
That's good.
So being an MD does not make you the producer.
Ooh.
Being a music director does not make you the producer. Anytime Dana has called me to be the music director, I know exactly what that position entails. The role of that is to be everything to everybody when he leaves the room. When he's there, he got it. I don't have to say anything. But the responsibilities that fall on me, if he's working on a body of music, as the music director, it's my job to know that music just as well as him, as the artist. So that way, if certain things have to be articulated, I know how to articulate them when both of them leave the room.
That makes sense.
That, you know, it took a while for me to really, really like accept that because, you know, my first MD job with Jason Nelson, I'm like, okay, how do you expect me to MD a Paris Bowens, a Ben O'Neill, a Elliot Johnson, a Vendell Smith, a Rick Wofford? It's like you're putting
like
me in
throwing you into Avengers, bro. That's like
I'm
that's like being Captain America. Like all of a sudden, like
they don't need to be directed by me. That's crazy. The lesser of these, but it made sense because they're like, no, yo, you understand Dana's heart. You understand his whole vision. So you know how to portray that to us. We don't have that tight relationship that y'all have with the daily basis. So you know how to say things that we possibly couldn't. Our musicianship makes it easy for me to be a music director because I don't have to say much. But really being the music director really was kind of just thrown on me. I didn't ask for it. It's just one of those joints where you're in the right place and just serving and doing all that. And then that kind of translated over into the whole John P. Key camp and pretty much just building that trust with everybody where it's almost funny for me to walk in any situation and somebody think that I'm not in charge. It's like, oh, no. I'm just playing bass today. It's okay. No, I don't have to. But then being the music director is what brought me into the whole
spiel
of production, programming, and all that stuff. And once again, just because I could program didn't make me the producer.
That's good.
It's once again, the producer is a seat that you got to work to. You don't just walk into it. You got to work to it. And the best advice I can give, sit with a producer that actually has credits of a producer. Don't sit with your homies and just think, oh, we released 3 singles, now we producers. No. If you want to be the top chef, you're going to sit with a great chef.
Come on.
If you want to be a top producer, you got to sit with the top producers. And I'm grateful that I can absolutely say from a Dana Saray to a Asaph Ward to a Trent Phillips to a Aaron Lewis, I've been able to sit with these guys, Justin Savage, Kenny Shelton, guys that have made impact in the community that I love. It's like, okay, great. Yeah, I've sat at their feet. I've been in their bands, and I've just been quiet. I played my role. I see how they do things. You take and pull, you ask questions, so that way when it comes your time to be that producer, you're ready. Like nobody could have ever prepared me to be in a producer seat except being around producers. Right. When I wanted to be a better bass player, I hung around bass players. When I wanted to be a better music director, I started having conversations with music directors. When I wanted to start producing, I started hanging around producers. Even when I started getting into mixing, I started studying mix engineers. So with every level, you just have to make sure your focus is on where you're trying to go and not where you've been. I can't tell you the last time I've sat and shed on bass because I'm I'm not trying to be that bass player that can prove I can play anymore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be the producer that actually creates classic music that's going to be here 20 years after I'm gone. You know, so
that's so much, and so much a wealth of just knowledge and information that you just gave, and wisdom. Man, it's so much you just put on the plate. It's like you just laid out a buffet, you know what I mean, for everybody listening. And it's like we standing in line at buffet and you only got one plate. It's like, yo, out of all of what he said, what am I gonna put on my plate? But the dope part about it, just listening to you, and I'm hoping that the audience grasps this concept, all of these concepts, is one, the power of listening to you talking about sitting with other producers, and the time that you spent, you know, basically sitting under a Dana Saray, sitting under, you know, all of these other top tier producers, top tier musicians and engineers, and getting around Duncan and getting around the people that are actually have results, and they've built a career, and they've built up, and they have the knowledge. And I think in this day and time, with digital media and YouTube and things of all of these nature, we've lost the art of internship.
Ooh,
you know what I mean? There used to
that's
be,
good, John.
there was
that's
a
good.
space when we were, you know, in our, you know, the 90s, the early 2000s, and in the heyday of music, 80s, 90s, that was always a process. If you wanted to be a producer, if you wanted to be an engineer, if you wanted to get, there was a couple of little recording schools and things like that around.
Right.
But
You had
like
Sheffield, you know,
like SAE and Berkeley and now, you know, recording and engineering is now college course levels. You know, there was a few floating around back. But for the most part, back in the day, if you wanted to get into the music industry, you had to go, you know, serve coffee, sweep the floors at a studio.
Come on, man.
You know what I mean? You had to go in and just be around. Paris, rest his soul, told me a story of how he got into it with got into the space with Timberland and all of them. And it was just by, like you said, being in the room, being in the space, being available. You know what I mean? Sitting around, you know what I mean? He was in the studio. He was, you know, that young kid that was the whiz kid. Yeah, he was talented. Yeah, he had the skills, but he know when to submit. He knew when to jump in and when to be quiet, when to be the loudest person in the room and when to be the quietest person in the room. And those are things that I think this generation is missing, that what I hope to bring in with what we do here at Gospel Producers is to really like instill that art of, hey, like you know, there are people that are, as we call them, OGs in the game, and they're OGs for a reason, because they built the path. You know what I mean?
And
like,
they
know what it takes to make a good record. You're not gonna get that stuff off of a YouTube video. Some things, and I've heard this said a billion times, and you've heard this phrase before. Some things are taught. Some people can just sit down and they can just give you the information, and you got it and you run with it. But the stuff like this, it's not taught, it's caught. Like it's an Elisha thing. You gotta be in the room. You gotta be ready to catch the mantle when it drops. You gotta be ready to catch that thing. And so listening to your story, you were the Elisha, you know what I mean? You sat in the rooms with these producers and you caught the things that they were throwing. You know what I mean? They didn't have to sit down and say, you know, okay, Morgan, you need to do this. Okay, Morgan, I need you to do that. I need you to do this. No, you sat in and you absorbed it just by watching the way that they solve problems, the way that they handle things, the way they handle clients, the way they handle staff. Because like I always say, as a producer, because everybody nowadays, they think, you know, if they got a MacBook, a Focusrite interface, and a AT2020 mic, they're a producer. You know what I mean?
Like,
but producers have budgets.
We have budgets.
You have a budget. That's when you're a producer. You could be a composer. You could be an arranger. You can be a beat maker.
I would rather people go around saying, I'm a composer, I'm an arranger, I'm a beat maker. There's nothing wrong with that. I promise you. I was absolutely fine being an arranger for years.
Yeah.
Because the thing I knew I could do well, I could arrange music, but I couldn't write. I couldn't put all of the pieces together to make sense. So no, I couldn't produce a whole song by myself. I needed a partner.
Yeah.
So, you know, once again, like you said, being in those rooms, and that just goes for every level. if I never studied, early on how Maurice and Calvin worked together, I would have never known how to actually play bass with a Calvin Rogers on drums when the opportunity came time. One of my first major records I ever did with Isaiah Thomas, Calvin Rogers was on drums. That God Said He Would Be With Me, the greatest record.
Dang, bro.
Like, I was nervous for the simple fact of Calvin Rogers, the Calvin Rogers, is coming to play drums. So as the bass, this was way before producing, arranging, any of that stuff. It was literally the musician in me was like, okay, one of the greatest drummers is ever coming in, and he plays with the greatest bass players.
Wow.
What am I going to bring to the table that's going to make him say, this kid, and at that point, I might have been like 23, 24. What is he going to say that's going to encourage me or let other people know, like, look, this kid is on his way? Because unlike YouTube and all that stuff y'all got now, the only way you could prove that you were a player was when it was time to play.
Say that again, Cheese.
The only time we had the ability to prove that we could play was when it was time to play.
That's a word.
I didn't have a YouTube clip or Instagram clip for people to check me out before they got there. It was literally Isaiah and Chris Leach, the producer, saying, hey, Calvin, I'm bringing Morgan in. Maurice can't do it. He literally is baby Maurice. That's all he studies. That's all he does. So mind you, Calvin comes in not 2 weeks before, not 3 weeks before, the week of. And one of the most scariest moments I ever remember is the drummer that was normally on the road with us played the song, and I promise it didn't look like Calvin was paying attention at all. It didn't look like he was on his iPad. So all I know is we played the song down. They was like, Calvin, you got it? He was like, yep. He got on the drums. He said, all right, play the intro one more time. Play the intro down. He counted that joint off. And I mean, Calvin had played that song like he'd been playing it for the last 6 months. But the simple fact of the matter is, by the time we finished that song, he was like, oh, you can play.
Wow.
That's all I needed.
Yeah.
It was to know that he would be comfortable with me playing and not say, yo, we got to do something else. This is not what I'm used to.
Yeah.
So even with moving into the music director position, now my position wasn't as so concerned with making sure the band was comfortable. Now I got to make sure the artist is comfortable in that same respect. I got to make sure not just we know the music, BGVs, y'all good, Mr. or Mrs. Artist, here's a set, da-da-da-da. And it's always just different levels of preparation that you have to have before you go to each level. So, like, bringing all that up to when we got to Javon, one of the crazy things was when he sent me the song, it was a voice note of them in rehearsal.
Wow.
Now, mind you, one of the biggest things for me as a producer is if you send me a song with kind of a semi-musical arrangement on it, the first thing I'm going to do is strip all the music away. Because what I never want to do is somebody come back and say, I put that part in that song, da-da-da-da-da, where's my credit? Nope. Guess what? I'm going to strip it all the way down to the bare bone minimum and start over. So that way it is a fresh creation.
Yeah.
So when it came to this one, I did the same thing. And honestly, one thing about me as a producer, I really believe this. Gospel music has a sound. It has rules, but it also has a freedom to it. But then there are also certain things that when you hear, you know it's gospel.
Yep.
Most of the time, and this can be argued, 808s are not gospel. They're infused. I have no issue with it at all. But if we be true 100%, 808s were introduced, not born out of.
No, they were introduced. No.
So when you come to certain sounds and certain things like that, my notion is always, okay, if the average church had to perform this song and they don't have none of these sounds, will this work? So I'm always Stanley Brown, one of my other mentors, who used to be music director for Hezekiah Walker, producer. Then he moved to RCA as a record label exec and all that stuff.
Yeah.
He told me something that has stuck with me almost, it has to be about 15 years ago at this point. He said, Morgan, when you start producing, do me a favor. Always remember, guaranteed, without fail, 52 times a year, somebody's having church somewhere on a Sunday morning. Create music for them.
That's good, Cheese.
Because they always need music for Sunday morning.
Yeah.
It's great to have music that we can listen to. It's absolutely great.
Yeah.
But what makes a lot of the songs from yesteryears still work today is because they were made for the church to sing, not for the church to listen to.
That's so true.
A lot of the music we make today, and once again, this is just my opinion, and I can say it because I played on some of them, but it's like a lot of the music is created to show how good the artists are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Not for the congregation to sing it.
Yeah.
And that's why you can pull out Total Praise right now and everybody will sing it.
Everybody will sing it.
But I can also name 100 other songs that every church ain't singing.
No, because it's too complicated. It's not made for the church. It's musicians making records for other musicians, producers making records for other producers, artists making records to impress other artists.
Absolutely.
And like you said, the church is left out. That's why when you think about Maverick City, I know everybody gets into the whole CCM, whatever.
Yeah.
I don't care.
But
they won because they made
based
records.
off of the formula.
They made records for the church, bro.
They
like
made
before they
records for
even got in on the Grammys and those first few years where Maverick was really popping, man, you didn't hear that stuff on the radio. You didn't hear that stuff on that stuff wasn't. But it was charting because it resonated with them, and it was music that they could sing on Sunday morning. It was what they wanted. Like they heard the lyrics, they heard the arrangement, and they said, "We want to sing this Sunday morning." As controversial as that is, that's the formula that works.
The formula, and that formula still worked for our pioneers.
Yeah.
Before Hez and them started, you hearing their songs on the radio, they were being sung in churches.
Come on.
Hez would go do a concert, a choir director would record it on a cassette tape, teach it to their choir. Songs started spreading like wildfire. John Key the same way. Fred's the same way. But as a producer, for me, my thought process is always not just for this moment, but is this song going to be able to be duplicated by Berean Baptist Church, the little church on the corner that's only got 75 people? Will their choir attempt this song? Will their praise team attempt this song? If they have C-list musicians, can they play it? So like I said, from my perspective of producing, even when I went into this song, it's like, okay, you know what? Guess what? This song is not about how great you can sing. It's about the testimony behind the song.
That's good.
So from a lyrical standpoint, Javante's always been an amazing writer.
Yeah.
So from his penmanship, I'm like, okay, we're already lyrically meeting the people where everybody has been to a point. Opening line, why are you worried about the things you're going through when God has already proven himself to you, period. Everybody in their Christian walk or in their life
can identify with that. Yeah.
Can identify with that. So guess what? Musically, nothing needs to get in the way of that. So what do we need to have? We need to have space. We need to have time for people to digest lyrically what's happening. So already I'm going back to my some Shirley Caesar vibes. I'm going back to, because it's a story. I'm going back to my, all right, cool. What is a church vibe that leaves space? It's so funny because, and he would laugh if he hears me tell the story. Pastor Key used to always in the middle of a show talk about choir anniversary.
Okay.
And it will always be this one vibe of song that they will play. And the vibe is boom, 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 boom. When you hear that, you don't think R&B. You don't think country. You don't think hip hop. You that's church.
That's church, cheese.
That's
That's
church.
Down home, down south, from the country.
Like
you said, Berean Baptist Church. Mount Calvary.
Right. Right. All the Baptist churches you can think about, that sound becomes identifiable. And even with the opening piano lick in the song, I said, yo, if my aunt was playing this song, this is the lick she would play. Yeah. It would be that. So it's, once again, I need to catch you off the rip with familiarity.
Yeah.
So that lick, even though it might be corny, you know where it came from.
Yeah.
It's like, oh man, my auntie, my uncle used to play it. My grandpa, my grandma, the Sunday school teacher, used to play that on piano. And then it's like, okay, cool. As the story progresses, what am I thinking about how we need to keep this space, but we need to make certain emphasis on certain parts. Yeah. So that's kind of how this whole musical approach for this song came. But then there's also an underlying underlying hip hop feel.
Okay.
Not hip hop feel. I'm sorry. It's an underlying, I would say, 80s R&B soul.
Okay.
I can hear that. And it's honestly a broken up. If you really listen to it, tell me something good.
Yeah. You know
boom,
what?
Boom, boom, boom,
yeah.
boom.
Yeah. Yeah.
Boom. Boom. Boom.
That's good.
But so it's really mixing two things, but because once again, we cannot sit here and say that gospel is not a hybrid of every genre out.
No, it's the most eclectic genre on the planet.
It's the most eclectic genre. So once again, now there's a familiarity from your save side.
Yeah.
But then it's also that side that's gonna make you go, ooh.
Yeah. You gotta speak to it.
You speak to all things, but so once again, it's a perfect marriage and a perfect mix. So that way it's like everything about this sounds familiar to me. Yeah. So you already got me sonically. Now lyrically, where are you taking me?
That's good. Let's jump into the record, man. Let's see what you got. Let's share the screen.
Okay.
And you show and let's see what this record, so you can show us the BTS of so how you put all this together.
Okay, man. So basically, all
right. So told y'all I was gonna tap in with y'all, and if you didn't know, I put it in the comments. I pinned it up. This was a pre-recorded segment. I know I saw some people that was talking about whether or not what song it was and all of those things like that. So this is a pre-recorded segment from our John Blass's masterclass that we've been promoting over the last couple of weeks, and this is a part of an almost 2-hour conversation that I had with Morgan Turner, where he goes through the record that John actually mixed in the class. And so we showed the production side of it as well as the mixing side of it. So you get to see both sides of this particular record, something that you never really get to see in like mixing master classes. They don't typically show the recording or talk about the recording process. They typically just, hey, here's the mix, and the mix was already finished, and here's what I did. So we decided to take a different approach in that we wanted to add in a segment with the producer himself where he talks about the record. And if you don't know what class I'm talking about, let me show you this real quick and you'll see what I'm talking about.
My name is John Blass, and this is my mixing course on gospelproducers.com. In this class, we're going to walk you through a mix that I did, a live recording that I mixed for Javante Patton. We're also going to talk about the reasons behind my thought process, how I think about mixing, what it is in my mind, how I decide when a mix is done, what I think of a mix as I'm working on it, because every mix is different. Click the link in my bio or scan the QR code to gain access to this class.
So that's the class that we're talking about. You can scan the QR code right here, screenshot it, and then it'll take you to, you can go on your camera roll afterwards, tap it, and it'll go you straight to the straight to the class or what have you, where you can kind of delve in to all this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stream a little bit more of this class. I'm going to give y'all just a little bit more of this class. But before we dig into a little bit more from Morgan, we're going to dig into what he did on the record. We're going to dig into it. I want to answer a few questions that I saw come in. Make sure y'all screenshot that. This QR code is going away in 3, 2, 1. Boom, it's gone. All right, so let me answer a few questions that came in while we were streaming that segment. What song, Eric Brown says, what song is he talking about? He was talking about a song by Javante Patton called, why should I worry about the things I'm going through? He'll Do It Again by Javante Patton. And Morgan was the producer on it. And again, like I said before, this is a part of the class that we did with John Blast, and he mixed it and we showed that or whatever. So y'all make sure y'all stick around. I see some of y'all dipping out, but I'm gonna show some more of Morgan. I'm gonna drop him in a second. I just want to get to a few things that came in during the thing. I think they were talking about his mic. It was the RE20. I saw that come in. I think that was answered in there. Dale came in and said, I learned the hard way. You just can't walk into being a producer. I absolutely agree with that. That is super, super dope. My man said, Sean says, the problem with OGs is that that OGs don't want to accept interns. They pretty much shun those that express interest. They don't want to share the wealth. I'm sorry that that's been your experience, Sean, for those situations. I'm not sure like who you've reached out to, who you've tried to tap into in this industry or what have you. But I've experienced some of that with some people. Some people are really closed off. Some people are introvert. Some people just they don't have the capacity to teach or to share. And so you have to be able to respect that. And just because a certain OG won't share with you, that doesn't mean that all OGs won't share with you. You know what I mean? That nobody wants to give you information or wants to take you under their wing. I don't think we should categorize or lump everybody into that category, because I've met some producers, some what we call OGs in the game, that have literally given me everything from knowledge to information to helping me, connecting me, putting me in the game when I was nobody, before gospel producers, before all of this stuff. So I can feel that thing, because I have run across some buttholes in the industry. I'm not even gonna hold you and act like that. I'm not gonna dismiss that or disvalidate that. That is a very true statement that some people just don't share. But some people don't know how to share. Some people are cool with you just coming in and being in the room. You have to decide and figure out how to do that. But I wouldn't give up on or categorize or throw everybody into the category of nobody wants to share. You know what I mean? You just haven't found the right person that will share with you, or you haven't been in the right environment to receive that sharing. Or maybe that sharing doesn't look the way you thought it was looking, and you couldn't get, because I know some people that get on here on these apps, that get on Facebook, that get on YouTube, and they pouring out all of the information, all of the secrets. We got courses right now. This whole thing is a course with John Blast, who set up under John Yash, shedding and sharing his information, how he mixed, records, how he mixed and all of that stuff, how he won Grammys, all of that stuff. So you just have to find the right people. That's my discourse on that. He says it's a very territorial and closed mindset. I agree with that. I mean, but again, you got to find people that are willing to share. And just because 1 or 2 or 10 won't share doesn't mean that anybody. A lot of it's on the persistence. They got it the same way that you got it. They got it by hanging out with other people and getting in there, putting themselves in the way. And sometimes you got to keep putting yourself in the way. I got people that have been rocking. I got a guy right now that's working with me, that's working for me. He's an employee now. He just became an employee this year, but he's been rocking with me for 10 years. And he didn't come in asking for the information. He didn't come in trying to take information from me. He came in trying to figure out what value he could offer me. And he did that. He ran value to me for years. until I got to a point where I said, you know what, I got to bring this guy in because he's offering so much value to me and I'm not even paying him. So I'll say this and then I'll be done, and we're gonna get back to this stuff with Morgan. I'll say this last thing and I'll be done about this. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. There's a thing called, I call it vet, VET, vet. You have to vet people, which means that with every person that you run across or you connect with, there is a value exchange transaction. Vet. People want to know what value you're offering them before they exchange value with you. You can't expect the OG by default to give you value for nothing when you have traded nothing of value to them. Have you offered to pay that person for instruction? Have you offered to do something for them? Have you offered your services as a musician, as a producer, as an engineer, as a whatever, to just be in the room with the OGs as they're working? You know what I'm saying? To be in the moment. What value are you? Because people that sit in that seat, it's not they're ignoring you. They're like, what value do you bring to the table other than you just want information, other than you just want me to share something with you? You know what I'm saying? So I don't think the shunning so much is I don't want to give you information. It's just you haven't provided value. I don't have context of who you are. I don't have context of what value you are. I don't know you like that. And there's something to be said about that, because on the flip side, we do people that way. We treat people that way. You know what I'm saying? If somebody just pops up on you all of a sudden, just runs up on you and starts asking you for all your stuff, you're like, wait, bro, who are you? What do you do? Like, where's the relationship? So there's value in building relationship. And in building relationship, you can get the information or get the exchange or get the value that you're looking for based on what you put in. You get in, you reap what you sow, you get what you put into it. I'm off my soapbox, y'all. Anyway, Mentorship 101. Then my man Sean says, so how do you get into those rooms? That's the number one question. But first you gotta figure out where the rooms are. That's number one. Figure out where the rooms are. Study the people. Figure out how you can give them value. How can the person that you admire, the person that you want to be mentored by, the person that you want to connect with, that you want to get some value from, figure out what their need is. If you can do your homework well enough to connect with people and figure out what they need, fill a gap that they need, they'll give you the keys to the kingdom. Case in point, the person that was giving me value, I didn't put them in the room year one. They rocked with me for 10 years before I put them in a room with me to work and do some stuff, where I actually gave them an assignment, actually brought them on and put them on payroll. But it took them giving me value. Now, I'm not saying every situation is a 10-year situation. That's just how it rolled out for me. You know what I mean? That's just how it worked. It gets to a point where a person has added so much value to your life that he didn't even, to his credit, he didn't even want anything. He wasn't asking to be in a room. He wasn't asking for a seat at the table. He wasn't asking to be connected, to be put on. You know what I'm saying? He was just connecting from a space just out of the value and the genuineness of connecting and being a friend. And it took that level of time to build a relationship. And now he's got a seat at the table. You know what I'm saying? So value, I think you start there. How to get into a room? Offer value. Be the valuable person in the room. All right. That's all I got, man. I'm sorry. I ain't been on the soapbox all the way. Yes, sir. Sean Keys, dope producer in the industry. Yes, sir. It's all relational. Develop real relationships. And you'll figure out how to get the value that you're looking for. You know what I mean? Out of the people who are working in the industry, because we're working. We don't always have time to stop and feed. But if you're feeding something that we need, then we're more in tune to share. The people that are in my circle, they get the keys to the kingdom. Like we talk. They know products that I'm doing in the next 6 months. They know what I'm doing because they got a seat at the table, and they offer so much value to me that I had to bring them in and make them a part of the crux of what I'm doing. But it takes time, and you have to. I love this right here. Genuine build. Make it genuine. Don't give to get. Give to give. Like, That's the value. The value is not what they can give you. It's what you can give them. It's what you can get from them. It's what you can give to them, not what you can get from them. Any relationship that you approach with a get mentality, you're not going to get anything. That's just what it is. If you approach a female with the intent to just get in her drawers, you're not getting in there, bro. Like most of the time, unless she just, thirsty. And that's a whole different conversation. But we're talking about genuine relationships. Like anytime you approach with something on a get mentality, you ain't getting anything. And even if you do get it, it's not going to be worth the value that you're trying to chase after it. Focus on giving, and giving will put you in the rooms that you want to be in. All right. Add value. Yes. Add value. Yes, sir. It's all about mentorship. That's my passion. The reason I went on this soapbox is because mentorship is my passion. Like, this is why I do what I do. This is why I'm building gospel producers. This is the whole reason for the Hangout. It's the whole reason for these masterclasses. It's not to make money like that. Again, trust me. I'm straight. I'm not doing this for money like that. The money is a part of it. Providing for my family is a part of it. But this isn't a cash grab. You know what I'm saying? Like, I do a lot of things at a loss because of the community and what I'm doing. I got some stuff coming for you guys really, really soon that's going to blow you away that I'm just absolutely about to give away. And you won't even believe it when you see it, once you see what I've been working on. I've been working on this for a minute. And when you figure out, like, dang, he about to give that away. Yes, I'm about to give it away for free. So it's all about that. It's about giving. It's not about getting. It's like the value exchange transaction. Figure out how you can give value, and the value that you'll get back is not probably the value that you intended to get, because it's giving opens up a whole principle on that. Mentorship is my passion, and that's where I'm driving. That's the point I want to drive home. Give to give, not give to get. Give to give, bro. Give to give. Don't give to get. Don't worry about what nobody's giving you. What are you giving to others? What's the value you bringing into the table? You know what I'm saying? Brian says, make yourself available, and when you get in the room, learn all you can with your mouth closed. Observe and learn. You'll be really surprised at that. All right, that was good. All right, so I appreciate you guys hanging out. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes. I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes of this situation with my man, Morgan Turner. I'm gonna give you guys a real quick, maybe another 10 minutes of this. Then I'm gonna go get me some lunch for one. But I'm gonna give you guys another quick look and dig into this code. But what I need for you guys to do for real is I need for you guys to hit this QR code for real and check out the Blast class. Again, giving to give. We're in the standpoint where I got a chance to sit with John Blast, and he agreed to give us his process on mixing. This guy's like the #2 in gospel mixing right now. And we got in over a process of 3 years of working with him, we were able to come up with this piece. And everything that I'm doing right now is all building this whole narrative. And I got a bunch of stuff that's coming out that you guys are going to see. But this, I need for you guys to help support this because it builds this. And I'm telling you, I give to give, not giving to get. That's the whole point. Check that out. Hit that screenshot. Screenshot that QR code. I'm getting rid of it, and then we're gonna dig a little bit more into this segment with Morgan. Just a few more minutes of it. Check out the class, John Blast, and then we'll be right back. So let me jump in here. I'm actually gonna start it, and then I'm gonna skip to a point where it's really, really juicy. All right, pay attention to this.
My name is John Blast, and this process, how I think about.
What up, guys?
Producer. So he's like, "Oh man, I'm chilling." Quarter notes, half notes, eighth notes work, but him trying to get into the 16th and 30 seconds is no point because once again, it's already carried by the weight of this loop. So really, in Gabe's mind, he's feeding off of.
Yep.
That's where he's feeding off of. He's feeding off in quarter note and eighth note land, not 32nd land. He's not feeding off of there.
That's crazy.
So 32nd land, and I'm saying that just because of the rhythm of the 30 seconds. Hopefully y'all know the difference. Eighth notes, quarter notes, all that stuff. So 32nd land is where you get to that fast trap stuff. Yep. So really, it's a hidden element just to make people once again like, oh,
right,
versus the tradition.
Right.
The mothers are already there because for 2.5 minutes, that's where they lived.
That's where they live. But this will bring in the next. This will bring in your Gen Zs and your millennials.
This will bring in my Gen Zs. Once y'all hear that, oh, hey,
yeah,
like Gen Zs, that don't move them.
Right.
Now they got, I'm dancing, break it on. You know what I'm saying? It's like, and that's how I think, because I'm like, you got to watch the way people move when they groove to a song.
Yeah.
Oh, my older saints, myself and above, we're, but the young ones, they're like, they subdivide.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, because that every downbeat, every beat is impactful for them. So it's like, okay, cool. They're subdividing the whole song.
It makes sense. Yeah.
So it's like really just appeasing to the rhythm nature of all generations, but doing it in a concise way where a lot of stuff is camouflage. You feel it, but you don't hear it.
Yeah. But it has that sauce to it, that element.
It has that.
They don't
sauce
know why they feel like they just went from the church to the club all of a sudden, but they know they're there. It's something in the groove that just makes them just want to be like,
Because the whole time you think about the band, all we're doing is bang, 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 bang. We not moving.
Yeah.
So why is it you're feeling this extra push? It's from what you're feeling, not because nobody. If you play everything, you're not hearing that ticka 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 ticka. You're feeling it. Because it's blended so well, it just sounds like it's a part of the percussion track.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So that's kind of how that vamp came to be. It was like I just needed to make it more exciting rhythmically, but not chord structurally.
Yeah.
Because the chords progression is what keeps us home base.
That's super good.
The chord progression kept us home base where it felt like church all the way to the end. But rhythmically, it brought the humping where it's like,
it's the perfect blend. So how does this translate now to the live environment? Because this is all your pre-production here. So this was all prepping for the live recording itself. So how does this translate?
So really, by the time we get to rehearsal with the whole live crew and everything, one thing that I always do is really rehearse in sections and kind of talk about the sections of the song, what's happening, what's going to be varied from verse 1 to verse 2, and then pretty much just dial in people's placement in the song. The discipline of the verses on this song is space. The discipline of verses is space. The discipline of the bridge is we got to be okay, if you're not the piano player, to lay out that whole section.
Yeah.
It's really divvying out just and delegating what the disciplines of the song require. Here are the open spaces. Okay, here's where we all gonna move together, and here's where we gotta live. So once those jobs were divvied out, it kind of made sense as we rehearsed the song. More so just thinking about like, okay, how as an organist, what settings do I need to have?
Yeah.
It's like, okay, now we're having conversations about genre and texture. Like, so now it's like, okay, I don't need you to have I don't need you to have the image of Kenny Shelton on organ or Dana Saray on organ. Yeah. I need you to go back. I need you to have a Danny Hawkins approach on organ. I need you to have an Ivan Powell approach on organ. I need you to have a Ricky Grundy. I need you to have a Melvin Crispell approach. Because now we're talking about sonics and not just about playing. So from an organist perspective, we're going to talk about settings. From a guitar perspective, it's like, okay, I don't need you to have flash. I need you to have feel.
Yeah. Johnny
DeBose, one of the greatest feel players, where he can pick a spot and you know it's him. So even for my guitars, what I always think about doing, even when I pre-pro a lot of the guitar stuff, is like, I need you to record as if you're playing live. So a lot of stuff that you'll see in, of course, this first track is the clean track.
Yeah.
Then you'll see the distorted track. A lot of stuff is open versus you see it all playing at the same time. Because I'm like, look, if you're playing live and you're playing clean, you can't play distortion and clean at the same time.
It makes sense.
What is the most realistic approach? Where is that if somebody hears it, I can almost pass off what's happening on your distortion track as a part of what's happening in the aux keys section.
Wow. Yeah.
So it's really a math to it. But then when it's time to go distortion, the distortion has to tonally mean something.
That's good.
So, it's just, one of the perfect examples is this little space right here where he got this lick going on. We got... So it's like, okay, wow, this. So guess what? In the pre-pro world, I need that distorted line to match what we're playing because that's the emphasis.
That's the emphasis, yeah.
That's the emphasis. But this space right here is dedicated for you, as small as it is. As small as it is, that space is dedicated for you because here's another trick that I always use. I like playing Tetris.
That's one of my games too, Cheese.
I like playing Tetris. And the crazy thing is, if I see a space that I can fit something in there, this little space right here, guess what? By the time they finish this phrase, so it's like, okay, because in reality, that phrase is, once again, I was using the reference vocals. It's but it's already proven himself to you. That it actually ends on you. Yeah. So even if, and I can show you on real time, like if I were to say, okay, I want to make sure that cuts off right there, I'm gonna do that. And then that way, if I hear these two together, proving himself to you.
Wow.
So guess what? Nothing is in that space. Because even if you look at, okay, bass has fallen off, everything is falling off, keys falling off. Back.
Wow.
So it's like, oh, okay, cool. Now you might say, well, what's that aux key space going on down there? That is absolute dramaticism.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not notes.
Yeah.
The melody that the guitar player is cutting through.
Wow. Yeah, that's just a bed for it to sleep on.
It's just a bed for it to sleep on. And even though it's filling up the same amount of space, it's not serving the same function as what that guitar space is doing. So somebody be like, well, he's in the way. No, he's not in the way. He's actually laying a bed.
That's good.
Because you still hear that line cut through.
That's really good.
So, you know, once again, it's all math, and that's why I say, you know, like I like playing Tetris because, you know, sometimes it's just a matter of, can I fit this in that space? Or yeah, that actually will work in that space. It's cool. You know, just playing around with those different ideas. And like I said, this was much harder because I didn't have the final vocals. These are just the reference rehearsal joints. So I'm putting this together and saying, okay, this should work, that should work. But then once, you know, we get to the actual rehearsal space, we see what does and we see what doesn't.
That's smart. So from there, so do you have a session for the live record, like the final session when y'all got everything recorded?
Yup. So I'm gonna cut y'all off right there. And if you want to see the rest of that, then you're gonna have to tap in with us on the class itself, John Blass's class. That's where I'm gonna cut off, because again, this is a whole almost 2 hour session with Morgan, where he talks about the pre-production that he did, because it was a live recording that John Blass mixes in the class, right? So it's a whole live recording. He talks about his pre-production, as you saw. He talks about his experience as the bass player, becoming an MD. You guys heard some of that, got some of that wisdom from him on that, and working with some of the top people in the industry and what that experience has been like. He talks through a lot of that. He talks through what it was like in the live environment. You know what I mean? What it was like being in that, prepping for that, because not only was he the producer, he was also the MD for the live recording. So he did pre-production, the live record, and he did whatever post-production needed to be done. Morgan was the producer on the record, and he did a phenomenal job. And then in the class, John Blass's class, is where we showcase what the mixing process. So you get a unique opportunity to look at what it took to make this record from the beginning to the end. You see what I'm saying? You don't get to see that in mixing classes. You don't really get to take, I've been in a bunch of them. I'm telling you, you don't get the opportunity to see the source material and how the source material was generated. And he goes in deep. He goes through all of his pre-production, all of that stuff like that, post-production, all of that stuff. And you get to see that as a part of the 6 hour plus class. And you can hit that QR code right there, trying to get my fingers right there. This little thing. Hit that QR code. What you can do, you can scan it with your phone, or you can screenshot it if you're watching on your phone. Tap it, and it'll take you to the page where you can actually take a look at this particular class. Let me get my music going here. Let's get ready to get out of here. Anything that you guys got, we're gonna lock in with that or whatever. So let's get this in here. There we go. All right, we rocking now. We vibing. Yep. So it's been fun. I just wanted to hop on and share that with you. If you didn't know, this was all a pre-recorded segment that I did with Morgan, because he's extremely busy. We've been trying to actually make this happen live for over a month, and we couldn't get that locked in to be able to do that live. So what we did was we simply just got together and just said, like, you got a space, you got a little bit of time, let's pre-record it, and then I'll just stream it, for the Hangout part of it for the community, and then we'll put the song breakdown part in the thing. So I'm leaving this video up. I'm not deleting this video afterwards. You guys can feel free to go back and watch the whole last hour worth of stuff that we shared, what have you. It's been a great segment, being able to share this stuff with you. Let me see what I got questions. Use your pro drums and drum fills and hi-hats in my productions, and full kit on one ballot. Oh, that's super dope, man. I appreciate you using pro drums. That's really dope. So yeah. That's all we got for you guys today. I'm not gonna hold you. I'm actually about to get ready and go grab some lunch. Again, I'm leaving this video up. I'm not deleting it. You guys can go in and rewatch this whenever you want. And if you're interested in checking out the full version of this whole breakdown, which is like I said, an hour 30, hour 40 minutes, something like that, of him just talking through the whole record, pre-production and production, and another 5 hours of John Blass mixing, teaching mixing. If you really want to see what that process is like from a Grammy Award-winning mixing engineer, make sure you go check that out. And I'm gonna leave you guys with this, and then I'm gonna dip out and go grab me some lunch. All right, talk to you guys later.
My name is John Blass, and this is my mixing course on gospelproducers.com. In this class, we're gonna walk you through a mix that I did, a live recording that I mixed for Javante Patton. We're also gonna talk about the reasons behind my thought process, how I think about mixing, what it is in my mind, how I decide when a mix is done, what I think of a mix as I'm working on it, because every mix is different. Click the link in my bio or scan the QR code to gain access to this class.